Hello, Mastertron Tamer here. In an earlier video, I reviewed the Smart Bell by Mighty Paw, which is a device for your dog to ring the bell when they need to go outside. My dog learned this very quickly, and that was great. There was one drawback. Once the dog learned that they could instantly get us to go open the door for them, which begs the question of who's trained who to do what, she kind of abused her privileges, and she would ring it and ring it and ring it. And I'm online a lot. I'm teaching a lot online. And once she starts ringing it, she just won't stop. She won't stop until she can get outside. So what I was thinking about doing was engineering a 3D model of a cover to put over this. And I think that that will help us correct that problem. So again, in making a cover, we think about this as sort of a lid that fits over here. One of the first things in 3D design is what shapes are going to, think about what shapes are going to make up that cover. And when you think about it, it's a cylinder, right? But it's a hollow cylinder is what we need to design. And that's not actually that complicated a shape to do. So I'm going to go ahead and walk you through how I would do that. But before we do that, the first thing we need to know is a few measurements on this device. So the right tool for this job is a caliper so that we can get the size. So that comes out to be about 67, a little bit of change there, but that's good. 67 millimeters will give us a good indication. Then we'll take a look at the height, and the height comes out at right around 19 millimeters. So now we've got basically all we need to do to get started. If you're doing a project like this, it also occurred to me when you're measuring it, be careful not to go too far, because then you'll click it. But anyways, about 67 millimeters and about 19. So now I'm going to head over and set this all up, and I will walk you through actually creating the 3D model, and we'll go from there. So the tool we're going to use for our project is Tinkercad. It's a fantastic program for people who are just learning 3D design. So I've gone ahead and gone into Tinkercad and brought up a new design. One of the quirks of Tinkercad is when you come in, the first thing it does is gives it kind of a crazy name. So we're going to want to change that to something a little bit more useful. How about bell cover? That seems like a reasonable name for this project. Now another thing, and this is going to be important for how we make this all work, down here in the bottom right hand corner is the snap grid. We're going to leave snap grid on. That's going to make things actually work quite a bit easier for us. But it is set to 1 millimeter, and that's actually what we want. That's going to help us out when we align things. So earlier I was mentioning really what we've got here is a couple of cylinders. So I'm going to start with the first cylinder. Now this cylinder is going to be the inner cylinder, and we want to give it some specific measurements. So the first one we're going to want, you can see where I've clicked right here. We're going to want this one to be 70 by 70 millimeters. That will give it just a little bit of room for it to go over the top of the bell. And we'll do the same one for this one. Set this to 70 as well. Okay, so now we've got our shape that way. What about height? So the next thing we're going to want to do is the height. So we do that, we click right here. You can see it defaults to 20, and actually that wouldn't be a horrible measurement for what we want. but I actually want this to protrude out of the bottom of this plane just a little bit, and that's going to make it easier to click on when we're trying to do things. So let's go ahead and set this to 24. There we go. Now, the next thing we want to do is increase the sides. This is how many segments are going around the circle. So this is the one that's going to be on the inside, so it doesn't have to be quite as perfect looking. So that's actually pretty good at around 35 segments. That should give us enough resolution for that to be decent. Now, I mentioned that I want to be able to click this, and one trick for doing that is to bring it down below the plane, because I'm going to be putting another cylinder on top of this one. So that gets a little bit tricky as to how we're going to align them. So let's go ahead. This little arrow is how we're going to bring it down. There's -1, -2, oh, went too far, -3, and you can see it over there on the right as well. So it's now 3 below. Actually, I think I do want 4 now that I think about it. I'll put it 4 below, and that means I'm still 20 above, which is what we want to be. If you remember our measurements on the bell, it came out to around 19 millimeters. So we want a little bit of slack on the top of it, not a lot. So that should be good. So this is now above the plane here. It's 20 millimeters and it's 70 by 70. So we're ready for the next step, which is to bring in the next cylinder. And, you know, before we go there, I think I'm going to move this over more towards the center. And we do that with the arrow keys on the keyboard. That's how we move it that way. Yeah, I think this is going to be a little easier to work if we move it closer to the center like that. Yeah, that's a little bit better. All right. So now the next thing we want to do is come up with another cylinder. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is change the color of the one we've got so that we can tell them apart. So I just click on the color here and let's make it blue. It's a pretty color. All right, now I'll drop on the next cylinder. So I've decided for strength reasons, I want the wall of this cover to be about 3 millimeters. So that means the cylinder needs to be 3 millimeters larger on both sides. So some quick math for that tells us what we want that to be is 76 on both sides and 76 over there. Okay. Then we're going to want to change the height. It looks like it came also at 20. So we want this to be higher than that. We want 3 millimeters. So we're going to tell it, after I click there, I want 23. Oops. There we go. So now it's 23 high. And the last thing we need to do with this is we need to up the the sides, sorry. And we're going to take that all the way to the max because I would like that really smooth as it goes around. And there's no, it's going to be a fairly simple design anyway, so I'm not worried about how many polygons I'm going to end up with this. All right. So now I've got both of these. So we are ready at this point to go ahead and put one on top of the other, and we want to align it right on top. And when we look at it sideways, we should see that it is indeed sticking up the 3 millimeters that we wanted it to. So the way we're going to get this aligned on top is we're going to click that, and we're also going to click the other one. Now we have them both clicked. And up here on the top, hopefully you can see my cursor, it says align. This is so we can put things next to or on top of something. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. And then you'll see these alignment things that come up. You know what? I think we have selected this the wrong way for what we're trying to do. Oh no, we haven't. So if I click the blue one and I go like this, I want this one to align over here. So I'm going to click this little guy here. That will bring it that way. And then I'm going to go over to the side and click this little one. And now it is aligned directly on top. We can visually look at it from the bottom to get a reference, but that looks pretty good that it is aligned. And again, these little guys gray out when you're perfectly aligned. So we're centered on top just like we want it to be. Now, one last thing I'm going to do before I leave this is we want the inner one of these to actually be a void. So what we do is we go over here where it says solid or hole and click hole. It is now a void. And that's going to hollow out the other cylinder for us. Oh, they were both selected. So now I'm going to have to select the top one and tell it it's not a void. And that should be good. Boy, they're both still selected. Okay, I will fix that. We'll go under here and tell it that that one is a hole. All right, there we go. We've got them. We've got what we want. So at this point, we could call this done and just move forward. But the particular place where this bell's going to go is right up against the wall. In fact, it's already taped down with double sticky tape to the floor right up against the wall. And that 3 millimeters that the cover is going to go over could present a problem. So what would be cool for this design is if we made just a couple of more alterations so that we had the ability to put this right up against the wall, effectively like making it with just 4 feet to hold it up. So what we're going to do that is we're going to grab a square next. So here's our square. We need it to be at least 23, and actually it can overshoot that. It wouldn't hurt anything, but I'm just going to set it to 23 for our height because that's as high as the cover. And then this measurement, the 20 is fine, but this will probably work better if we set that to 40. Well, you know what? Let's just go to 50 because going bigger is not a problem. All right, so the next thing we're going to do, yep, that looks good. We're going to do another alignment. So we're going to click this, and then we'll click the outer one. We'll hit align and click this. If we click this one over here, that's going to center it top to bottom. And if we click this one, oh, that's actually going to take it further than I want. So what we're going to do on that is go ahead and click it. Now it went 24. I mean, it's 20 wide. So if we change our snap here to 5, and I click just that, what I can do is go back 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm right on the edge because it's 20. Then what we can do is put this back to 1 millimeter because I think I want to come in. 3 would probably get me there, but I'm going to go with 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm 4 millimeters in. Tinkercad does this great little flashy thing where it sort of flashes between the two colors if it's perfectly lined up on it. So that's really good, actually, how that is set up. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we want more of these red guys. So what we'll do is we'll click on it up here in the upper left-hand corner. We've got duplicate and repeat, which is going to make us another one. And it doesn't look like we have another one yet, but when we pull it across, we'll discover that we do indeed have another one. All right, so we want to get this one. Oh, one more. There we go. Now we're right on it. So again, I just want to go, again, using the arrow keys, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm good. All right, so I'm now going to copy this one. And bring that one over because we don't want it way over there. We want it over here. Except we want this at a 90 degree to what it is now. So this is our little indicator down here. If we click down here, it lights up and we can drag this around to whatever we want. And we're going to take it. Okay, so this is a good time to show undo. There we go. Right back to the way it was. Okay. You know what I'm going to do? Rather than worry about dragging again, this is actually simpler. I'll just type in 90. And that's exactly what I want it to be. So now I'm going to bring that one over here. And I can probably just about eyeball this where I want it to be. Because again, because I'm overhanging, absolute precision isn't really necessary. So, all right. So now we'll bring it over till it's kind of right on it, just touching. That looks good. Actually, I see a gap in there, so we're not touching yet. All right, now we can do 1, 2, 3, 4. And we need yet one more of these. So we'll copy it again. And the new one, in this case, is just sitting right on top of the old one. So we can move it over with the arrow key. That looks like that's a gap, so we want it right there. I'll kind of visually look at it to see that looks good. And again, I'm going to bring it over 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, we are almost done with this project. And once you get kind of the hang of how to do 3D designs, you'll stop hunting around to find them on the web and just do your own. It turns out that it's faster sometimes just to make what you want. All right, so I need to make all 4 of these as holes again. So this one will be a hole, this one will be a hole, and this one will also be a hole. So basically, this project is complete. All we need to do is do a select all, which depending upon what keyboard you're on, that's typically a Control A. So now I have selected all of them, and I can say export. And then tell it, I could just say everything in this design, and I'm going to export it as an STL, and I can take it over to my slicer and go from there. All right, that's complete. Let me show you one more trick you can do if you want to visualize something like this. Now we could just bring up that STL file and look at it there. But another thing you can do to kind of give you a better view as to how it's going to look is, now that we've got everything selected, the negative space and the cylinder, we can go ahead and group these all together and give it a second, and look, there you are. There's our design ready to go. Now we don't have to do anything special in Tinkercad. It's going to save this design for us. And if you're unfamiliar with Tinkercad, it's free to sign up for. And they give you a little bit of space to store your models too. It's like I said, it's a fantastic learning tool. All right, so all that's left to do with this is to go ahead and print it and see if that's going to do what we want it to do. I've gone ahead and I printed it out. It's a bit like those baking shows, you know, they stick one in the oven and they pull it right out. Editing can make that happen for you. Anyways, here is the finished cover. I printed it in black so that it would stand out from the original bell, and it fits over there pretty well. That should meet my needs just perfectly. Now, most design is iteration, right? You're going to always be improving a design. And one of the things that I noticed after I put this over here is a thing that would be good for this would be to add a couple of ledges or little semi-spheres on the back of here, just enough so that when you put it over here, it snaps on and stays on. I'm a little afraid that's going to fall off of there. And that would be a pretty easy fix. And we could go do that together. But here I've got, I think, an even better idea. I'm going to go ahead and put this 3D model that we did together up on Thingiverse and give you a link to that. And why don't you give that a try? Improving it just so that there's, like I said, a little ledge on the bottom here, or better yet, some little knobs, little semi-spheres it should only take about 2 on each of these. And then I think it would snap on there and be just wonderful. So if you're looking for a little bit of a challenge and you'd like to try that, go ahead, go on out and give that a try. Like I said, I'll load it onto Thingiverse. So I hope you've enjoyed this video and found it instructional. Look for more. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel because there's plenty more coming.